Hey everyone, I hope you've had a wonderful new year. It's a new decade and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for us. We've had many great anime air in this decade and I hope we get to see more. My favorite shows to air this decade were Yuri Yuri, Oregaru, and Attack on Titan. But there's a show that I consider to be the greatest anime to have aired in the last 10 years. And no, it's not Demon Slayer. Nor is it any one of these overrated anime. No, it's something that kind of slipped under the radar and passed quietly. I am talking about Samurai Flamenco. Samurai Flamenco is one of those shows that you need to watch in its entirety to understand the message. So the premise of the show is sort of like the movie Kick-Ass. You have a vigilante who just wants to stop crime and do crazy hero shit. And it's like that for the first 6 episodes. The guy goes around, he stops crime, just beats up evildoers who are just assholes, really. But then something happens in the 7th episode. A drug bust goes wrong, and a fucking cokehead just goes full monkey mode and starts decapitating some police officers. And it was at this moment that many people dropped the show. The show switches genres immediately after this point. I think that's why many people dropped it. It was something they weren't expecting, and yeah, it caught me off guard too when I watched it. There's also a weird torture scene after this, and it's pretty brutal. I don't know how they got away with this, because this is supposed to be a PG-13 show, and it's an anime original, so I assume the higher-ups didn't know the show was going to be like this, and let's just say the show gets really dark fast. By the way, this is going to be a full spoiler review of this anime, so if you haven't watched it, please do so and watch it in its entirety. Don't drop it. Just keep on going. Just keep on watching. No matter how ridiculous it gets, just keep going. But yeah, the sudden change in genre is what turns most people away. The show kind of divides itself into 3 to 4 episode arcs, and that's to create some order in the chaos that is this show. The pacing is what really keeps you on your toes. Every arc keeps you invested into the show. New characters are introduced and a new, crazier plot is pushed forward. And with each progression of the new arc, it just gets more and more ridiculous until you get to the big philosophical debate at the end of the show, which is it gay to marry your homies? No, but there is a deeper meaning to the wild progression that this show has. Essentially, the show is about 2 characters, later on 3, that each have their own delusions, and they all indulge in each other's delusions, and it's fine to play superhero, or to play a caring boyfriend, or to play a successful idol. But at some point, escapism becomes a very unhealthy coping mechanism with the real world, and to be a true friend to someone, you gotta let them know that they're just sick in the head, dude.
We said sodomy, she said gay. We asked KBC Yaga, she said sexual minorities. Confusion of the highest order. So what they do is they cover Bapa Kirechi, the baptismal name for that word is sodomy. But they are giving themselves a new name, sexual minorities. Human rights.
Besides that, I think the anime itself, in terms of quality, is around maybe a 6 or a 7. It's not terrible in terms of production quality, but just a reminder that this show was the last show the studio of Manglobe did before it went bankrupt. The show has some really good music. The openings and endings are pretty good. They change a few times during the show, so it's not always the same one. The first few episodes are really good in animation-wise, but there is a noticeable dip right after the 7th episode, and also, there's a few moments where you can really see the budget just drop. The characters themselves, I think, are really interesting. You have the main two cast, which are Hazama Masayoshi, which is the delusional superhero guy, very childish. He's also a model. Then you have his friend Goto, the cop, supposed to be level-headed, later revealed to be a dirty fornicator. And later on, we're introduced to a character called Mari Maya, who is the third protagonist. She is the leader of a female idol group called Mineral Miracle Muse. She forms her own vigilante group with her fellow idol members, in which they capture criminals and perform CBT on them. And the best part is that they do this for free. Don't worry though, because one of the villains flips the table on her and crushes her balls, figuratively speaking, of course. The show is all about taking the viewer for a wild ride, and it most certainly does. Each episode ends with a plot twist, and it gets to a certain point where it's no longer a plot twist, but really an escalation of the ridiculousness of this show. You go from episode 1, where the character just wants to be a hero and beat up some bad guys, to around episode 19, when our hero has a long conversation with God himself. I did not expect an anime about superheroes to be more spiritually aware than the superhero movies that we have here in America. Watching Samurai Flamenco is truly an experience that I've never felt watching any other anime. It fulfills that crave you had as a young boy to see heroes save the day with their justice, or to see big giant mechs beat the shit out of monsters. And if you're a bit more of a edgy kind of person, well, they have that too. There's literally a villain called King Torture, and guess what? He knows how to make a woman scream. There's something for the woman too in this show. There's a lot of yaoi bait in this show between the two main characters, but in reality, they feel a platonic love that only men could understand. Even if you're not a big superhero fan, I think you can still enjoy this show. At the very least, there's nothing boring about the show. There's a lot of action and a lot of drama, but the show never feels like it slows down. It's a constant roller coaster ride, and the slowest part is the beginning when you're climbing up. You fall down like a sheer cliff on a mountain. It's one of those shows that doesn't just surprise you, it truly reminds you just how little you know of the world. It's one of those shows where you simply just don't watch it, you experience it. And Samurai Flamenco is quite the experience. Samurai Flamenco is truly an unforgettable ride.